thank you so much for joining me today, Annie. Oh my God, I'm excited. I'm so excited. Okay.
I'm so happy to be here.
I am a customer, girl. I'm a customer.
Oh my God, yes, you have an audience. I like that.
Girl, oh my God. Okay, so if you guys do not know, please go and follow. All her information is going to be down in the description box where you guys can buy it, where you can find her on social media. Your website is very helpful and it's to the point. I love it. I love it. Okay, Annie, ¿de dónde saliste, mujer? Where are you from?
Oh my God. Okay, if we go back in time, I was born and raised in Mexico, in Monterrey, Nuevo León. I lived there my entire life, went to college in Mexico. Spanish is my first language. I've been in the States for about 10 years. I think a little shy than 10 years, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. It's not, and I should share that more online.
Yes. Girl, so you're holding down on us.
Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't come up. But so yeah, my family and I moved to McAllen, Texas about 10 years ago and kind of, rebuild our lives in America. My sister was able, when we moved, my sister was able to immediately start college in the US. And, I started working over here. And I've always had a passion for social media. So my entire career has always been kind of internet focused. I really, truly love the internet. I love that I can communicate a message with millions of people through a video or a photo. I'm passionate about memes. You'll see them across the brand. I love it. I love Mexican humor and Hispanic humor. I think it's incredible. So that has always been part of my DNA. I immediately after moving to the US, I was always looking for that community that I had back home. I was looking for it here. And I am sure that all of that eventually landed me with what I'm doing today, which is, hopefully honoring that same community.
Yes, girl. Yes, you are. Oh my God. Okay. So what made your family move from Monterrey to McAllen? That's a big change.
It's a big change, and it was a really sudden change. And this, unfortunately, is not a positive story. Things in Monterrey were really bad about 10 years ago. One of my cousins got kidnapped. Things just became unsafe for the family. So my dad was like, grab everything and come over. And it was honestly, it was a really sudden move. From in 1 week, our lives entirely changed. And it was, I had to see specifically my dad rebuild in the US. And that was, it's something that I honor him and respect him for so much, because it wasn't, now that I have a better understanding of mental health, and this is not conversations that our parents knew, but I saw it. I saw how difficult it was for my dad. I saw how difficult how it was for my mom. My mom doesn't speak one word in English. So for her to find friends and community, and all her family was back home. So it was, it was some really hard years. And I think it brought our core family together. And it also highlighted for me and my sister, there's a moment as an adult when you look at your parents and you're just like, oh, they're not invincible. It's our time to kind of step in. I think that was the moment for me and my sister where we saw them for the first time be vulnerable. And it was easier for my sister and I to adapt to a new life in America than it was for them. Now they're super happy and, they found community and stuff. But it was a moment, I think, that changed me and my sister in the way that we wanted to honor our parents in this new country for us.
Oh, girl, I don't know if you've heard, because you mentioned that you heard the podcast episode with Agua Bonita, but with Cadena Collective. Mm-hmm. They made me cry because it's like what you're saying, me da goosebumps. I get chills because I think we all can relate to that, right? And I always tell my parents, and sometimes when I feel like giving up, because it's hard to start something from scratch, which we'll get into right now, everything that you're doing, but starting something from scratch. But every time I feel like giving up, I'm like, my parents sacrificed so much. No puedo despreciar lo que ellos han hecho por mí, y tengo yo que darle ganas because they never gave up. Till this day, they haven't given up.
And they did it without complaining. They did I just saw such a different side of my parents that I had never seen. You know what I mean? Like, I just like,
To me, they became human.
yeah, yeah.
Because my dad was always my superhero, my Superman, but now I just see him like a human being.
Yeah.
And they don't do everything perfect, because of course nobody's perfect. Pero God, do they try? And you can tell the love that they have for their families.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was a fighting moment for my parents, you know, and I saw them try the hardest, but also struggle the hardest. I saw them. You know, it's interesting because you don't see your parents make friends again and make community as an adult. You know, like, my parents were born and raised in Monterrey, Mexico. Everything that they ever knew was there, and suddenly we're in the States. And my sister and I were able to make friends because, you know, you're just like younger. You're in the life where you're making your group of friends. And for my parents, it was entirely new, and that was I think it was a really humbling moment for them. And it was interesting for me and my sister to be so close with them while they were going through that. And I don't talk to them about it as much, and I should, because I have so much respect for those early few years where I saw them rebuild, not just because we talk a lot of economically, but socially and community-wise, they had to rebuild, and that's not easy as I get older.
How long do you think it took from you guys moving here, you know, within those first years? Did it take like a year? Did it take 5 years to kind of make it home? How long did it take for you guys?
Honestly, I think probably 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years for them. Now they're super happy. Mm-hmm. You know, my mom knows everybody. Like, you know, she goes to Walmart, Target. Everybody like knows her and stuff. Like, she's people in English. They're like, she'll communicate with anybody. You know, and my dad as well. Like, they have a couple friends now. They got involved in the church. They found their they found their niche and new family, and they found people that were in a similar situation as we were.
Wow.
So they were able to rebuild. But I would say, yeah, dude, I think the first 3 years were really hard. Really, really hard.
I can definitely vision that and, you know, feel it, because I think we've all been there at some point. Girl, so you moved over here 10 years ago. When did you start I Love Chamoy?
I started it about a year and a half ago. It was at the end of 2021. So middle of the pandemic.
What? A year and a half?
A year and a half ago. A little shy than a year and a half ago, probably.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it kind of, so right after we moved to the US, my dad was diagnosed with diabetes, and, you know, and it was immediately he you know, changed his diet, and it all was happening during those hard years, like all of it. So it was all a blur, to be quite honest. And I was just like, you know, I knew my dad was taking it very seriously, but I wasn't like paying so much attention to like what he was eating. Like, you know, my dad is very disciplined. So I was like, oh, he has it. And then, you know, years later, it was like, it just slowly became this thing where like my dad, you know, every time you go to Walmart, like pick up his favorite sugar-free cookies, sugar-free chocolate, like it just became a thing where like we knew what he ate. And I remember he had his cabinet, and it was just all his sugar-free treats and chocolates and Hershey's, Reese's, Jolly Ranchers, like all these brands have sugar-free versions of everything. And I went to open up the drawer because I was craving something sweet, and I was just like, it's kind of weird. Like it was the first time that I saw all the candy together, and I was just kind of weird that you don't have any sugar-free Mexican candy. Like, we love Mexican food. You could tell the difference between our candy drawer and his. Like, I was like, oh, you're missing some. That's on how Bad Bunny would say. And I went to ask him why, and he's like, Mija, I can't find it. And that kind of, you know, that was 6 months before we launched the brand. And, you know, the day after, I immediately started working on the company and trying to figure out how to make it happen for him. And it eventually became, you know, what it is now.
Hold on.
Love it.
Annie, okay, so first of all, please, let's clear it up. You didn't send me this.
No, I'm so surprised that you pulled it up right now.
I bought it, and this is actually just a new bottle. Por eso, I think my son already opened it. But this is like our third bottle.
I'm so grateful. Thank you.
And I freaking love it. I don't have diabetes, but diabetes does run in my family. My parents do take care of themselves a lot, and one of the first things that they had to give up was Mexican candy. I even have. I wish I could take the video with me over there. I have like a little bar where I have all kinds of candies and snacks y todo. Todos son mexicanos, pero nowhere can we find healthy options, porque todo tiene mucha azúcar, tiene mucha sal. Es bien dañino para nosotros, pero it's something that we love. We love our candy, our Mexican candy. I don't know.
I know. I was so shocked. I was like, wait, you're telling me like Latinos in the US have the highest rates of diabetes, because we do as a community. And you're telling me that like none of these big brands I've ever thought about us. Like it was just, to me, it was shocking. And then you also look at the impact that Mexican food and Mexican candy has in just normal pop culture. Like everybody loves Mexican food. I think it's one of the most universal loved foods. Maybe we as a community are not a universally loved community, unfortunately, but that's a different conversation.
You know what? They do love us, girl. I have to disagree. Because anywhere that I've traveled outside of the U.S. and Mexico, I don't even say that I live here. I say, soy mexicana y yo hablo español, no yo sé inglés. And they're like, oh my God, el chavo.
Love that.
I was in the Caribbean, and my first time in the Caribbean was in Dominican Republic. República Dominicana, thank you. And they started talking to me about El Chavo, Jose.
Oh, yo, that's like
girl, Mexican. They're like, yeah, that. El Buki. I'm like, what do you guys know about El Buki? What? And they love, Mexico is very, very loved. Now, that's here beautiful. In the United States, we're a little close-minded, y por eso no nos quieren en el mundo.
Yeah. But they still love our food. Like, that's the thing. They still, like, I think as a culture, we're so rich, and it's so beautiful, and it's so tasty, and it's full of flavor. Our candy's full of flavor. And I was just shocked that we weren't a priority. And I had built a lot of my career around social media and marketing, and I worked in media spaces. So I've always been around the conversation of, Latinos in media is so important. Representation is so important, like television, movies. We talk about it every award season, which is so important. But it kind of, what was repeating in my head was like, well, the same level of representation is important when I'm walking down the grocery store aisle. Like we are a community that will buy products. And I don't think I've shared this much, but right before launching the brand, right before working on launching the brand, I pulled this study from Google. I basically was pulling data just to figure out how to bet. Like I'm very data driven.
Of course.
Like I wanted to see, like, what candy do I start with, right? Like that was an interesting challenge. And I looked up Mexican candy, and I specifically looked up Chamoy, and the amount of Google searches for Chamoy in the past 3 years was tripling every single year. I mean, you see all the way from let's say from 2018, it was kind of frozen. And then immediately after 2018, it was like, and going up and up and up. And it's no surprise also around 2020, like the explosion of TikTok, the explosion of all of us creating content about our culture. You had people that like, you didn't have these big brands, you didn't have these big celebrities, you had everyday people posting about the things that they love. And now people that were not Mexican were like, everybody was leaning in and being like, what is that? And I was like, okay, I think Chamoy might be where I start. And so that was, of course it was a cultural nuance, but it was also data informed that I was like, the numbers are there. There is an interest for our culture and our candy. And if I can just maybe find a way to make it a little different and for more people to enjoy, it might work.
Girl, I'm like speechless. No sé si like smile or like be like, oh, but I just heard you say where I wanted to start. So do you have more stuff coming?
We do. We have our I can finally reveal these things because I've been slowly like letting it out.
And if not, I'll edit it out. Well, they'll just
no. I want to tell you everything. So we are planning on releasing quite a bit of new products this year. We're releasing a mango flavor this quarter, meaning before the end of March. We're planning on releasing mango, and it's a flavor that our audience voted on. So we let them pick the first flavor that was going to come out. It's going to have the same attributes as our brand, sugar-free, no artificial dyes. It's going to be delicious. And then literally today, I've been sharing more about this. We are working on gummy candy, that it's going to be like gummy watermelon spicy candy. It's going to be vegan, no artificial dyes, low sugar, all of these things. I had the formula finished, and then we were close to production, and there was something that I just didn't like. Like I kind of like went back and I was like, no. And today I just got the notification that I got the sample. So you'll see a video of me trying them later today.
Oh my God, that is so
excited.
amazing.
Really excited. And we're really letting our customers inform a lot of like what's coming next. I think they've been a part of our journey from the very beginning. So if anybody's part of our newsletter, you'll get the polls being like, decide what the next thing is. Like they're highly involved, you know.
Yes, I'm signed up.
Love that.
Because I love what you're doing. No, hold on, before we go any further, I don't want to forget to ask you, what did your dad think when you first gave him the chamoy, girl? Like once it was like done.
Once it was, I think for him it was like, because he saw a lot of the samples, and it came in like not so pretty bottles. I think when he saw our first bottle, the sticker on, you know, the seal, him having to open it, he got really emotional. My dad is a crier, which I love because I'm a crier too. I cry from happy things.
Yes.
You know? He's the biggest crier in our family. He like gets overwhelmed with how much he loves things, which is a really beautiful thing. So he cried. He loves it. He loves reading the comments. We're in HEB, so when he goes grocery shopping, he always walks down the aisle and he tells me if we're sold out, if there's bottles. He'll sell it to people walking by. He loves it, and he was pretty involved also. And we sampled over 40 different formulas in those 6 months. So. Wow. Towards the end, he was just like, just pick one, you know.
I'm done.
Yeah, he's like, it's a lot of chamoy. So he saw the whole process.
Oh, wow. That is so beautiful. I love that. I love that. Porque, I've heard the story that your dad inspired you and everything, but I always wondered, well, what else? And the thing is, Annie, maybe you did share it on your social medias, but I'm not on social media like that. Like donde estoy like viendo everything, because I do so much throughout my day that I really don't have time for it. Pero I've always wondered, I'm like, oh my God, like I would love like a dad reveal, or I don't know if you've shown your dad on there.
Yeah. Oh no, my dad loves being in videos. He if he's doing his testing his blood sugar levels, he's like, do you want to record me like taking a spoonful and then we'll test? He loves it. Like he like gets into. We have a mascot costume. He gets into it. My dad's mom, mi abuelita, died from complications from diabetes. So like, of course, this was made specifically for my dad, and that's kind of like the catalyst. But like he has an understanding of how even the disease itself has hurt him as a child. And if I get a message that is somebody being like, I bought this for my dad, or I bought this for my kid who has diabetes, or we get a lot of messages from moms who are pregnant and develop gestational diabetes, and like they're having the craziest cravings for chamoy and like couldn't have it. Like I read those to him, or he goes on the website himself and reads them and gets really excited because he relates to it. It turns out. I was surprised. I honestly was surprised about this. Turns out that a lot of people had a very similar story to the one between my dad and I.
Yes. Well, when you shared that, I think that's what captured me, because igual que tu papá, that's another thing we have in common, girl. My grandma on my dad's side, su mamá de mi dad, passed away from complications of diabetes. She was, during her last days, it was so bad. She was on like dialysis, and she, like, everything just started breaking down. She couldn't see. So, my dad, thankfully for that, he takes really good care of himself. So he's always checking like his sugars, and siempre está en el doctor. I'm like, Dad, Medicare, porque ya está viejito mi dad. So I'm like, Medicare's going to run out just because of you going to the lab all the time.
Love
it. But yes, it's something I think as Latinos that connects us, because we've all experienced it one way or another. We've all experienced it. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, girl. Now, you see there's a need, you're like, I want to do this. How do you even start in something like that? Like, where did you have, like, you know, schooling to be like, oh, these are the ingredients? Like, how do you mix and match? And
I love exactly how you said, like, how do I start? That was me the next day. So the night I had the idea, I stayed up just researching, right? I was like, okay, like what's out there? Like what, you know, the next day I was like, I have no idea where to start. My background is in marketing and communications, not in food. Like I can't even boil an egg. Like I'm not kidding. I was like, okay. And my dad drove me to Target or Walmart to buy, like, I felt like a little, like a kid, like first day of school. I was like, I need to buy like notebooks and markers. Like, I was like, I just need to write things. Like, I'm very like, if I have an idea, I don't know where to start. I'm like, I just need to like write it. And that first day, and I still have the mock-up. I designed like what the website was going to look like, which is actually quite similar to what it looks like now. So it just like, I was just like, I don't know how to do the formula, but I know what my dream is. So like, let me start with wherever. And I always tell people that I'm like, there's not a linear way to start, just start. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it will never be perfect. Like there's so many things I would change about my brand now, but I love that it's out there and I love that it's alive. And then I had just met a couple months before a food scientist, like a formula developer, who she had her own brand. She was start trying to do something very different. And I was like, hey, like I'll help you with marketing. I'll help you with social media because that's where she kind of lacked for her brand. If I can hire you to create this formula. And, you know, thankfully, I love her. Her name is Noemi. She's incredible.
We love you, Noemi. Thank you.
Love you, Noemi. Every time something good happens with my business, I'm like, Noemi, this wouldn't be possible without you. And the great thing about her is she had the muscles that I lacked. So she, of course, knew about ingredients, knew about formulation, but she also knew about lab testing, about regulations, about finding the right co-packer, about pH levels, like making sure like the product would develop mold, how to do shelf life. So I honestly thought it was going to be a process where I was like, oh, I can launch this in a month. It's like, no, it takes 6 months. I mean, to be able to have all of those certifications under our belt and just the peace of mind. And she was so strict, and it was so helpful to have somebody who was so strict. That was what she was an expert on. I was like, perfect. So together we sampled over 40 different formulas. She was like, what sweetener do you want to use? She like taught me all about sweeteners. She's like, what type of salt do you want to use? She taught me all about that, and so I tell people, like, if you have an idea for a business where you're just like, I don't feel like an expert, doesn't mean you can't launch it. It just means that be very self-aware of what you lack, and then trust somebody who's smarter than you in that area. And you have to surrender, because I think as a business owner, sometimes you think you know everything. In this case, I didn't. And since then, I've learned so much, of course, and now I have different connections in different areas of, if I'm developing hard candy, if I'm developing gummy, like there's experts. I'm like, I'm learning so much about like, oh, gummy has to be handled this way. And so it's been such a journey, but really, really finding people that were smarter than me in those areas where I was lacking was life-changing for my business.
So I think for anybody listening, those are 3 very important things. 1, just start. Just get it started. Just do it. It doesn't matter where, de dónde estás empezando, even si empiezas de hasta el último. However, just get started. So that's 1.
I designed the website before anything else. That's not how people start, But
yeah.
Do it.
And then 2, it sounds like you need to be able to let go. Surrender, like you said. I think that's a beautiful word, surrender, and let go and allow yourself, especially like I think right now I'm trying to talk to the people that maybe are like me. I'm very, girl, yo tengo que controlar todo, hasta el control de la tele, And I'm very, very self-dependent. I always have been. Part of my childhood trauma is that I always had to deal with my own feelings, my own everything. So to let go and release that and be like, can you please do this? Or can you help me with this? Is so hard. So work through that process and let go. And number 3, I think is very important, is who you surround yourself with.
Who you surround yourself with, and like because you'll hear a lot, right? You'll hear a lot from when you tell people that you're starting a business, you'll hear a lot about the way to do it, right? And like, if you don't have step one, you can move to step two. I don't believe that. I've lived my life entirely on like, you just figure it out, like just start it and know that you're going to learn a lot. And I think that like really enter, I mean, it's been such a wonderful journey, like starting this business from a personal level too. I think like you just come with the mindset that you're going to learn a lot and you're going to be wrong a million times. And knowing that from the very beginning is going to allow you to forgive yourself easier when you make mistakes. But having that kind of philosophy from the formulation process, knowing that, hey, Noemi knows best when it comes to this, then allowed me, like, when customers have feedback, to be like, the customers know, let me listen, let me not take this personally, let me like lean in and be like, oh my God, I want to learn more and I want to make something better for you. And I think that has been kind of like the philosophy of the brand ever since. And anytime we're working on something new or anytime I'm collaborating with something new, it's like, you just have to know that like we're always ready to learn in this company, because it's something new. It's never been done before. We have to learn.
I love even the way that you respond to your critics, because girl, I want to cuss out people sometimes when I see like certain things. I'm like, are you for reals? Like, si no te gusta, keep it moving. Like, no eres monedita de oro. And even then, not everybody likes oro, right? But I'm just like, gosh, geez Louise. But I always love when you respond to it, and the way that you respond to it is like with such a positive. And I'm like, I hope that person felt super stupid.
No, I think it goes back to like my love for the internet, where like I think that for a lot of brands, and I understand it is difficult for a lot of brands, is like, because after we gain an audience, there are small business owners that are like, hey, can I like schedule 30 minutes? I want to pick your brain on what to do with my socials, right? I'm like, yeah, of course, because I love it. I really do love social media. And I hear a lot, and I completely understand that some people, I'm like, I just don't like it. Like, it's not my thing. Social media is not my thing. Creating content is not my thing. For me, it happens to be something that I adore. But like, I find it all charming. Like, even like when people are, you know what I mean? I'm like, you're gonna get some people that are like, don't gonna understand. But I'm also a firm believer that anybody taking 10 seconds out of their day, and I have longer videos too. I have 3-minute video. Anybody taking time out of their day to watch one of my videos, to hear my story, to hear the story of the brand, is an honor. Because like that type of marketing anywhere else would cost so much money. And the fact that we are able to do it for free through these platforms, and sometimes you have people in the comments defending you. Like, it's a whole space. And I do adore it. And I think that has a lot, my passion for social media has allowed me to not be jaded by it.
I love that.
That's never been like operations, logistics. That is difficult for me. It's like, that's the challenge. But like getting online and talking to strangers about like, oh, I'm worried about this. It's just that comes a little bit easier for me.
I love that. I love that, because I think we all can learn a little bit about that. I just did another interview right before you. And I was telling that person, I'm like, I turn off my comments because I can't deal with it. I just turn them off. Even for my podcast, like on YouTube, the comments are off. Like everything's off. I'm like, because I can't hold myself to that just yet. I'm working on it. I'm in therapy and all that. But I'm like, I'm going to do social media on my terms. Like you said, just get started. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what I can. Y ya lo demás que venga como venga,
And it's baby steps. Like my first couple months, the negative comments, I would like beat myself up over them. Like I would spiral and like take them so seriously. And like, of course, they're from accounts that like didn't even have like a face, a face or a name. Like
user 9,642.
Literally, and with a cartoon as a photo. And I just had to like. It was a kind of daily challenge of like just remaining positive and wishing people the best. And that also had its own learning curve. And I think a lot of people also have the expectation that when it comes to branding and marketing, that everything has to be so perfect and so polished. And I sometimes I treat my TikTok, the TikTok of the brand, as like a close friend story. Like sometimes it's just like, I'll tell you anything, I have videos that I have planned and I get really excited. I have other videos that feel more casual. I just hired a social media manager, which is a big thing for me because that's the part of the job that I love the most. But I think I hit a wall where I'm like, I don't think I can make, I don't, because I have control, because I have control of, I don't think I'm able to push myself to be more vulnerable or more open. Like, it's almost like what is it? The fear of looking embarrassed is holding you back.
Oh, yes. Kind of like you don't know how far to put yourself out there.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I think I need to bring somebody who is funnier than me, is more internet than me. And, her name is Carla. You're going to see her pop up more. She's wonderful. And I'm like, Carla, you can do anything to me. Like you just push me. Like I just got to the point where I was like, I need a collaborator. I need somebody that like is going to push me and is going to sometimes poke fun of me as the joke. I welcome that. Like, and I also talked to her. I was like, you're going to go through the same thing I did with the comments where some of them are going to like bum you out. But in the end, you'll end up having a healthy relationship with this because it's just the internet. We sell candy. We're not doing brain surgery. We sell candy that we love to people that we love. It's quite simple. So I'm excited for her to bring a new perspective.
I'm excited to see that. Oh my God. And that's huge because I could just imagine it would take me some adjusting to give somebody the reins over, especially when you enjoy it so much.
Yeah, no, and I knew it. Carla, it was a gut feeling because this is just for anybody who's maybe like applying for a social media job. She applied, and in her application, she included custom memes with my product, and I was just like, dude, the memes were everything was hitting. They were so timely, and I didn't even interview anybody else. I was like, God, I know in my gut, I'm like, this girl made me laugh more than I could have made those jokes funnier myself. So she has to come and be in my team.
So people listening, don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Out there.
Life favors the bold and the brave, right?
Yes. Now, is your family involved at all? Like, is your dad, like you said, I know your dad's your number one supporter, number one fan, number one customer, probably. But do they actually work on the business with you?
Yeah, they help with the business, not entirely full time, all of them. So like, turns out that my mom became a full-time mom after my sister and I were born. That woman, dude, she's so sharp at operations. So sharp at operations. Like, I just give a Latina mom anything and they'll run it like a military camp. Like, it's just, she's incredible. Like, she's been able to optimize my business from a logistics standpoint perfectly. Like, she's so organized and she talks to everybody. She's very like movida, she's like, oh, I got you a better deal here. I'm like, well, like, I didn't even know you were doing that. So get a Latina mom on your team because they can do anything.
Yes.
My dad, what he does the most is like the videos with me. Like, he just loves it. He did the videos, he is like the biggest like ambassador of the brand. He'll talk to anybody about it. He went to the dentist. They recognized him from the videos. And he was like, he brings everybody bottles. I'm like, okay.
You're like, Dad, we need to sell them, not give them away.
Yeah, I don't know. If somebody comes, I'm like, oh, somebody's going to come pick, like if I'm like, oh, somebody's going to come pick, the shipment. He's like, oh, I gave the delivery driver a bottle. So I'm like, yeah, do it.
I love it.
My little sister, I call her little sister, but she's only a couple years younger than me. She's so smart financially. My sister has her master's in finance, like where I went very, very like numbers driven. So she was when I was launching this business, she was so insisting of me doing it by the books and being organized and like, hey, tax season is going to come up. You need to have. So I owe a lot to my sister of this being kind of like a very buttoned up business from the very beginning. So everybody has been involved, and I've it's allowed me to see talents from all of them. And I think they've also seen things in me that maybe they didn't see before because only my coworkers got a chance to see that, not them. So it's brought us closer, but I think it's allowed us also to appreciate each other, not as like, oh, my sister or my mom, but as individuals with very different talent skills. So I've been so impressed and I'm so grateful. And my sister was actually the one that chose the design now, the pink. I was gonna go with such an ugly color. I don't even want to tell you. Like, I was gonna go with like such a boring color.
I can't even imagine another color, girl.
Dude, it was like I have like 8 colors, right? I had the logo in like 8 colors, and the pink one was my least favorite. I had it at the bottom, and I was like telling my sister, I was like, "This is the one that I'm gonna go with," and she's like, "That doesn't look like candy. That looks like it looks like a medical product. It looks like one of those like very whitewashed kind of like products that you would see maybe at a grocery store. It is predominantly to white people." And she's like, "I think you should go with the pink. I think it's something that I see kids gravitating towards. Like it looks like candy." And she picked it. So
Oh my God, props to your sister. Are you guys looking for another member of the family?
yeah, you should just join. Hey, we'll put you in.
Please.
That was a humbling moment too, to have your little sister be like, the color that you chose is ugly, because she's bold. My sister will tell me everything as it is. But a lot of people now love those colors, and that now sorry, I was like
No, you're fine.
I was like, everything I own is like that.
Yeah, that color. Yes, girl. No, I love it because sí llama la atención. Like if I were to see it in the shelves, it's like, oh, what is this? You know, it's very bright. It's calling. It's inviting, and it does feel like a candy.
Shout out to Daniela. She chose it.
Daniela, you're amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna join you guys. Be the third sister. También, you know what I tell my dad? I'm actually trying to build a business. I'll tell you off air. But trying to build a business for my dad porque he retired. Y pobrecito, you know, like he's hitting that point where he's just doesn't really know what to do with his life because he's been working his entire life. And so le dije, Dad, let's start making videos. Like, I want to share you on social media. People need to connect with you, like, understand you. And he's like, no.
Sí.
No quiero estar en las redes. And I'm like, ugh. So when I hear that your dad's like so excited, it's like, I want a dad like that.
Yeah.
Mine's just grumpy.
No, you give him a little taste. My dad didn't love it at the beginning. I think he saw the response, and it's like my mom still doesn't understand, like, how do people find you like that? You know, that was a whole, like, she's like, where does now I see when she comments, right? She has a TikTok now, and she'll go on like a liking binge where I'm like, who is this person liking every single day? I was like, oh, no, of course. So it's a learning curve for them. But they love it. I think most parents end up loving it, and they love being involved in our passions. You know, your dad will love to be involved in your passion because they didn't get a chance to do that maybe like 10 years ago. But now it's like, now we're a little bit more slow down. They're a little bit more slow down. It's like the perfect
timing.
Time.
I know if you scroll down like on my podcast, like on Spotify, one of my very first episodes, I had to trick him into coming to my house.
I love that.
And recording, and you know, I turned on everything and I put up our mics. I gave him the headsets and everything. And he was so nervous, Annie. You can tell through the whole thing. I mean, well, you don't know, you know, people don't know my dad, but he's not serious like that. My dad is un payaso. Like, he's like joking and stuff, but you could tell like he's so nervous and serious, you know. And once he was done, he was like, so then how do you put it in the computer, and how do you get it like on Spotify and Apple, and like how do you do that? And so yes, they do get involved once you get them there, but it does take a while. You have to soften them up. Annie. Okay, and so have you guys been able to go back and visit family, or is your whole entire family over here now?
No, we've been able to go back, you know, which is amazing. We went back for Christmas. We took everybody bottles, of course. Most of our family is in I said 90%, 95% of them are still in Mexico and Monterrey. So we try to go as much as possible. They try to come visit as much as possible. You know, I have a little niece that I only see like once or twice a year. Her name is Annie. Like, how old is she? She might be like 12 or something. She's obsessed with TikTok and editing videos. She actually produced like a little commercial for I Love Chamoy. So it's even from that perspective, like having things to bond with my little nephews and nieces with, it has been really cool. Like los hijos de mis primas, you know?
Yeah. Which here, girl, they don't consider them our nephews, and I'm like, what do you mean? Yes, they are.
Hell no, they are. They absolutely are.
I had a whole talk with a coworker of mine. She even printed out like a family tree for me and everything, and she's like, look, cousins are removed after your first, and I'm like,
they call me Tia. I'm wearing that proudly. Like, I love being a Tia.
Yes. So yeah, no, because I'm like, our first cousins son primos hermanos.
Same. Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they consider them here. But I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. It's only my sister and I. She doesn't have kids, so I'm taking every niece and nephew I can. Like, blame me.
Oh, I'm sure you miss them so much. ¿Y qué te dicen of your success, girl? Your family
They love it. I think my nieces, specifically the ones that are super into TikTok, like they love seeing like when our follower count goes up. We do videos together when I'm there. Like I give them like tasks. I'm like, guys, we have a new product coming out. Like, because I used to play like that. I used to play like production, and like it was. I just relate to that like, passion for.
You're inspiring a whole nother little generation.
They're great. No, these kids are so much smarter than I ever was. Like, I'm so excited to see what they're gonna build. Like if we did that with like a rock and a stick, I'm like, what are you guys gonna do? Like, it's gonna be so cool. You guys are like, no, she knows how to edit already. I'm like, okay.
Maybe you didn't need what's your social media?
Carla, yeah.
Maybe you didn't need Carla.
No, if I had hired my niece, she's even more brutal. I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Once removed, but no, it's great. I love sharing that with everybody, even my friends, because I talk a lot about my family in most interviews and my videos. My friends, my girlfriends, incredible. Like, the day we sold out, the first day we sold out, they showed up and stayed with me until 4 or 5 a.m. packing orders. We ordered wings and we packed orders for hours and hours and hours. And the first orders, we were writing handheld thank you messages by name. Like it was very exhausting, but we wanted to do that because it was such a special moment. They've always showed up, every time. Like this morning, my friend was like, "I want to go to the dog park." I'm like, "I have a podcast." She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited for you!" Like, honestly, I need to talk about them more and my things, because I have never, like, none of them have ever been like, "Do you think you're going too fast? Are your dreams too big?" Like, never have I felt any sort of. It's the opposite. They're always encourage me to like do more. They don't have the same passions as I do. Like, they're in a completely different industry, not at all interested in doing what I'm doing. But the way that they show up, and I'm surrounded. Most of my friends are Latina, Filipino, Black women. Like, the way that women in our communities show up has been incredible. And if they ever listen to this, I am so grateful for them. I never talk about them enough, and I should, because they're such a huge part of my story and the story of this company.
And I was about to ask you, who has inspired you the most?
Who has inspired me the most? It's honestly a mix of everybody. Of course, my dad always comes up as the top, because now as an adult, I understand more the sacrifices he made his entire life, and especially those years where he first moved to the U.S. Like, how hard it was, how that like my dad dealt with imposter syndrome. I mean, we always talk about it like, oh, us, our generation, like, millennial and under. And it's like, no, now I understand it. He went through it and he got through it. And I'm like, so every time I have it, like, I think of him. But also there's, we get a lot of positive comments, but there's some comments that start with like, mija. I see them. I'm like, they go, mija, I'm so proud of you. Mija, this is so cool. And when I see those, I like the way, I just know that it tends to come from an older person in my community. Those, just the way they land on my heart is always like, just like batteries. Cause I'm like, okay, like, you see numbers and you see followers and you see likes and comments, but when I can narrow it down to real people that like I sometimes I think I'm like, this has to be a prank. Like, there's no way people are buying and trying my product. Like, this is a big con from somebody.
No, girl, we are.
But you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you forget this is like real people. Like, these are not numbers, of course, but like when you narrow it down, in those moments, I think that it becomes the biggest inspiration, because you're just like, oh, I'm like, this this is something really special, and I'm very happy. I'm very grateful.
So those people are the ones that inspire you the most.
Because you're just like these, even you asking what's coming next. I'm like, oh, people care what's coming next. Like,
yes.
Oh, like that's like inspiration, but it's hard to believe. Like it's hard to believe because it was a dream at one point. It felt like something so far away. And then it's, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you don't know that you're in the good days when you're in the good days. I try to remind myself, I'm like, oh my God, this is like a complete stranger caring about my business and how I started this company. It's such a miracle and such a blessing. Like that in itself is enough to like power me to like
that's your payday. That's your payday.
It really is. It really is.
And see, and that's why I was like, no, I need to let her know how amazing she is, because I know sometimes we do just need that validation sometimes. Of yesterday, or not yesterday, but the other day I went into my favorite bakery. Son Latinas, están jóvenes las muchachas. And I always go and support. I never ask for any discounts, nada, and I'm always showing them love. And so my husband is like in love with her baking girl, to the point where I'm like, okay, she cannot be a sister wife. She could just be our baker, okay?
Love it.
And so fuimos y le dije a mi esposo, let her know how much you love her mousse. She does a mousse thing. And I go, let her know. And he's like, why? And I was like, just let her know, watch. And sure enough, he was like, I love your baking, blah, 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 blah. I love this mousse thing. Porque siempre she's changing the menu on the pastries. And he's like, but I really like this one, but I love everything you do. And she was like in the verge of tears. She was like, thank you so much. And I was like, girl, do you not know you're amazing? And she's like, yeah, but people come and stuff, but nunca me dicen, like, if they actually like it. And I was like, girl, on your stuff. Estoy gordita for a reason.
Yeah, no, I think it's so powerful to tell somebody, like, whether it's a video or a product that impacted you or a comment. So yeah, if any of my customers are watching and they've ever left a comment, like we go through them, and it powers you up,
Yes, really, that's amazing. Other than that, girl, has there ever been any challenges that have been like really hard to overcome? Maybe like a hard part in building I Love Chamoy?
Yeah, we experienced a robbery pretty quickly after we launched. So this was, we did our first production. Our first production was supposed to be 750 bottles, and the plan was to sell them in a span of 6 months. And I was like, oh my God, I hope I can sell 750. I was so nervous. I was like, what if I'm like left over with all these bottles and like I have to give them to people for Christmas?
No.
So because of TikTok and a viral video, we ended up selling those 750 bottles in less than 1 week, which was really insane. It was really insane. Like I was calling my parents and being like, oh my, like, the order's supposed to come in. So then I was like, well, I'll take pre-orders. I'll do the next production. I started taking pre-orders. People were so nice, so patient. And we were about to go into our next production. My friends came the night before to help me load the van. This production was going to be twice as big. Load the van the night before, which I'll never do again. And in the morning when I went to like take it to the production kitchen, everything inside had been stolen. Everything. And my co-packing facility at a time, I'm going to spin it with a different co-packer, which my co-packer is Latina owned, Latina run. I love them. They're incredible. Incredible. Like she's been an angel in my life, our current co-packer. Such an inspiration. But anyways, our co-packer at the time was like no refunds, no rescheduling. So we lost a lot of money during that robbery. And we also, like, I was so embarrassed. I was like, I have to go back to my customers and be like, it's going to take me 1 more month to give you your product. Like that sucks, dude. They waited already a month. Like they waited already like 2-3 weeks. And I was so nervous and I was so terrified. And the response was overwhelmingly positive and supportive and comforting. And I think it was one of those moments I look back, like now you forget when you were at hard times. Like it's kind of like, you just forget. I feel I've never had a baby, but I feel like it's when people are like, it's like having a baby. You just forget how painful it was and then do it again.
Yes, girl.
Like you love it.
You so much get the crazy idea to have more, and then you're like, what the hell? No.
Yeah, like that's kind of how it is. And I was like, it was a moment where I was like, I want to quit. Like maybe I just got too excited. Maybe I maybe my dream was too big. And seeing how our customers responded was like, oh no, we're staying. And we're like, so every time something hard happens, because it hasn't been easy, a lot of things happen that I don't share online because they're just so tedious, whatever. Remembering those early hard days. And I deal with imposter syndrome too. There's times where I'm like, I hate something that I did. I feel lost, or I wish I moved quicker, or I wish I moved slower. But most times I'm in a very grateful, in the moment mindset with this company. Yes, of course, it's a job, whatever, but like it's just, honestly, it's been a journey. It's so fun. It's been so fun.
And it looks like you're having fun, because every video that I see, and like I said, as a customer, even algunas veces me das ideas of where I can pour my chamoy, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I can pour it into everything. I just want to know, when you do get those thoughts of imposter syndrome, because I feel like every immigrant has that. Right? We don't belong here. This is not where we're from. My idea, ¿quién me va a apoyar? We didn't grow up with those positive, you can do anything, mija, kind of messages, or I'm proud of you. Or at least I didn't. Pero how do you deal with that, Annie? Like on a day-to-day basis?
I think me and my friends talk about this. I think I have hopefully it's a healthy amount of delusion. I like being delusional. I like when delusion comes in. I like, and I also see a lot of companies. I see a lot of people that, I'm like, well, if they were able to do it, then I should be able to do it too. Like I get very like logical, but delusional at the same time. So I'm like, really? No. Like I can't. Like and I look back at what we've built so far. Like we should keep going. And I think it's also like, sometimes it's I can't guarantee that this business will be a success, right? That's something I just don't know, right? But what I have learned through the process is like, oh, I can build something. Like I've built something. So if I have to build something again, I'll build it again. Like, so trusting more the skill sets that I've picked up through this journey versus just like this story itself. It's like this is one moment of, God willing, a very long life. So if this fails, I'll build something new again. Like I enjoy it. And I've failed many times before in many other areas of my life. Like we just forget. We forget how resilient we are. So in those moments of doubt, I really have to sit down and be like, okay, mi amor, we've built things before. We've picked up. We got robbed that second production. Like we can get over this. So healthy level of delusion. Surround yourself with people that love you, that are gonna like. They're going to tell you the truth, but they're also going to tell you that like you can do things. You can, you're going to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. If you're expecting things to be perfect, you're in the wrong business. But you'll make it. You'll build it, and you'll make it, and you'll see it through. And whether it's a long life for your company or a short life, but you'll build it again. Like that's something you, as Latinos, will always build it again. Like that's one good thing we're good at. We'll rebuild again and again and again, so. So
not even the wall can keep us away, girl.
Really, nothing. Like we're good at like just figuring it out. We'll figure it out, So
I'm always like, si no me dejan entrar por la puerta, entro por arriba, y si no puedo por arriba, entro por el túnel.
Armo mi propia puerta. Like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're just like, we'll figure it out. Like, we've never been. I think it's such a part of our DNA as a culture. Like, and I think back of when we moved to the U.S., like we built. Like that was way harder than starting a company. That was starting a whole life. Yeah. So, but some things you do them out of like necessity, so you forget how difficult it was. Mm-hmm. Versus things you do by choice, where like you have the space to feel fear, and you have. Versus the adrenaline. But I'm like, oh no, like we are very resilient, and we build and we'll build again.
Do you take some time maybe out of your busy schedule, because I'm sure you have a lot of things going on, girl? Do you take some time off to just sit and reflect and appreciate what you've had, the success you've had so far?
Yeah, I'm a little bad at like sitting still. Like it's something that I like my friends are trying to teach me how to do that and I love them for it. Um I started therapy towards the middle of last year. Incredible. Could not recommend it enough. I found a
Yes.
therapist who was a daughter of immigrants, like who just could relate to my story and my struggle. So that has helped me to like have at least that 1 hour in the week where what am I going through? You know, good and bad, and like let's like look
No,
under the
that's
hood,
amazing. That's amazing.
and then talk to my parents about being in therapy, and talk to my sister about like, hey, like you know, I told to my sister, I was like, I really like this. Like, it's something we've as a family we've never discussed. So I do that. I have like I get hyper fixated with songs where I'm like I pick a song where I'm like, when I Love Chamoy reaches its milestone, this will be the song that's gonna play. So every time I listen to that song, I'm like, it allows me to reflect. It allows me to like, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
these types of like I think you have to do whatever works for you. For me, it's like these kind of like I have a huge imagination and I like getting excited about scenarios that haven't happened yet, but then they do. So I think whatever works for people, it should be fun. It really should be fun. That's what I think. It's been really fun for me. So
I think if I'm gonna call anything this episode, I think I'm gonna call it "Si se puede."
sí se puede y es divertido y vale la pena. And it's like sí se puede, and tampoco it's like it's not that serious, you know. Like sometimes things are not like I'm happy I'm making candy and not something, you know, in a different line that would be much more serious.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and not only that, girl, but you're making a product that is really good. I'm really looking forward to what is to come in the brand. And I seriously, I wish you from the bottom of my heart the most success. I want to see this like in Target. I want to see this everywhere, girl. En todos lados. So te mando all those good vibes. And I want to be able to just pick it up from, you know, my local store. I don't live in Texas, so I don't have an HEB.
Well, where are you?
San Diego.
Oh, we'll get it in Vaughn's. We'll get it in Rob's.
Kroger's, yeah.
Kroger's. Perfect.
Yes. I could even see it at Sprouts. Right next to Agua Bonita, girl. Because
we're gonna reveal, this is probably in like 3 weeks, one new selling avenue. So
I can't wait for that. Oh, I can't wait.
I've been asking for, so we'll see.
I te digo, te mando todas the positive vibes. And I just want to thank you, Annie, for joining me today and for letting us get to know you a little bit more. You're so fun.
No, and if I'm ever in San Diego, if you're ever in Texas, we're getting a drink, we're hanging out. You're so fun. I want to hear more about your story. Like, I'm like, damn, I need to start a podcast to like learn about this, the other people interviewing me. I'm like, it's you know, but you've been such a pleasure. And I love what your podcast stands for. I love what you're doing. It's so important. And I'm just so grateful for you.
Oh, thank you. And likewise, you know, I have so much fun doing this, and it started as a hobby and I had a whole different vision, but actually my guests are the ones that have been guiding me and giving me like a purpose. And I love meeting new people. I love hearing everyone's story because I think we can all relate somehow. Y así para saber que we're not alone. You know, hopefully somebody that has been in the situation that you're in, that can identify, that wants to get started and doesn't know how and thinks it's all perfect. It's not, pero with hard work comes really good rewards at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, Annie, well, sending you so much love, girl. And I'll continue to be your customer.
Next restock is on us. Do not buy another bottle. I'm gonna be your Chamoy friend.
No, ma'am. I want to be a true friend. I want to support you.
I'll get you the mango. You'll get a mango bottle before anybody else.
Oh, okay. I'll give you my address.
There we go.
All right, Annie. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks.
I want to hear your story, or I want to support your small business. To do so, please go ahead and visit embracingmymarkings.com. Thank you for tuning in.